Made in Abyss is an absolute masterpiece when it comes to setting the mood and the tone of what a specific arc wants to do. And when you really look at the Abyss from top to where we're currently at, can't really say bottom because we haven't got there just yet, but when you look at the different floors, and I think a lot of the scenery that we witness in the show, it is, in most other stories' hands, you would say not that unpleasant to look at. Yeah, there's some darker, more grim locations and some monsters that are absolutely bone-chilling and come straight out of Freddy Krueger's kind of like monstrous wet dream, but you can look at a lot of what we saw in this episode, and visually, it's not that disturbing. But Made in Abyss is so good at making everything unnatural, making it feel like at any possible moment, there's something around the corner that could eat you, that could kill you, or could hunt you. And the uncertainty of what lies below, and the constant reminder that once you get to certain places, especially where they're currently at, there is no returning to who you once were. And the uncertainty of what that means as they just so elegantly direct it with this creature, something hunting them or something stalking them, not knowing exactly what that means and what it's going to be. I mean, they did probably the best directing in terms of what could be a new threat or at the very least, a creepy acquaintance. The fact that when they were sleeping, not only was the whistle stolen, they also stole their hair. And that alone is already a little weird, but when you go on the hunt because you need that whistle back, not only do you have that connection to someone you lost in the previous arc, the fact of the matter is it's something that they need seemingly to get further down. And the fact that when you open up the sewn ass, and I never thought I'd say this, but the sewn ass of some creature, and out spills your hair, what in the actual hell? It could have been a normal scene, just, oh, maybe these creatures eat hair. But the fact that they sewed it up is what really gets me, and the natural fear from them of being, not only did, like hours ago, did we see the entire sky explode in a fiery rain, we now have a stalker who was able to get through our booby trap, not wake us up, steal something we needed, and violate our personal boundaries. And that is insane, because even though I would argue what we saw at the very end of the episode isn't the most horrifying thing visually, if anything, it's more unnaturally creepy, it moves weird, it's just such an odd creature that sort of speaks human language, but then at the other point it just feels like it speaks the Abyss language. And even though it's not pulling swords or daggers or guns on you, it very much feels like this is the type of shit that you can become if you stay in the Abyss. And even if they attempted to go back up right now, I don't think they would make it. I think it's a pretty universally agreed opinion that by the time this show wraps up, there won't be a trip back home. There is going to be no trip back home. And the more I watch this show, the more I'm totally expecting a pretty depressing ending, all things considered. I mean, even if all three of these central characters don't end up dead, at the very least, one of them has to, if you ask me, and if all three did, I wouldn't be that surprised, but it almost feels like if they don't become the monstrous things we hear about in terms of what the Abyss turns people into, the deeper you go, at the very least, there's not going to be a happy trek home. Like, maybe it'd be more bittersweet than full-on depression, but the more I see of this landscape, the more I feel like, how do you not get a depressing ending without it feeling like a betrayal to the tone that the show's setting up? But leave it to the show to get more interesting as it goes on, because Made in Abyss was always a show from season 1, like when I first watched season 1, I binged it. And to me, it was one of those shows that I didn't necessarily have like a connection to the characters, but the world sucked me in so hard, it was hard not to want to follow the journey of what happens. And I think what the movie did a good job was getting characterization a bit more and making me more connected to those characters. So now that we're in this situation where the world is as equally interesting as the central three characters leading it, it is so terrifying to know that at every single episode we get deeper into this season, I'm waiting for the moment that's going to kill me. The moment that's going to be like the movie, where I'm like, even when I know it's coming because I've already seen it, it's just the visuals, the audio, the reactions from the characters, everything about it is just so disturbingly mesmerizing is probably the best way to put it, and that's what this show does a remarkable job with. I'm so happy that not only did we get, once again, some great uses of music, no surprise, one of the best in the anime industry right now with Kevin Penkin, but I thought they did a great job with those wider shots, really letting the landscape take hold. There was so much variety in terms of exploration. First of which, I guess we can kind of see where the name of this, I think it's called like the Scorching Sun, Golden City and the Scorching Sun. something like that. I mean, we literally saw like these two giant fireball sun-like things and just the almost volcanic eruption. Like the fact that they have to deal with fire raining from the sky, creatures in the sky that could hunt them at any possible moment, stalkers that steal their bodily hair and things of the like. I mean, there's just so much to it, but then you get these other shots where it just feels like in any other video game or any other anime, this would be like the very simple wandering to the next village, a very beautiful location, and then you start seeing other things that feels like we're starting to get pulled into like Dante's Inferno or something. Like just the, is that human skin moment of like, what am I looking at? Like, is that literally stretched human skin? What in the actual hell? And then to see who we deal with at the end, I have no idea. Like I mentioned in my first impressions in the first episode's video here of Season 2, I thought they did a great job with the directing of getting us acquainted with the new characters before switching to the familiar faces that we've come to know and love. And I think it's good to, you know, keep it a mystery of what happened to them, truly, because based on the opening, which was absolutely fantastic, they are in the opening, so it doesn't seem like a one and done thing that, you know, they just died off screen and we're never going to see them again. It seems like that will be important, but I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if they did a similar thing that they did in episode 1, where these characters may never come into contact with the characters we're following because maybe they're all dead, or maybe they turned into what we're currently looking at. I don't know, but it seems like they might play with past and present before building up to the big hurrah moment potentially, and I'm excited to see what that would do for the story in general, because not many shows, especially given how many arcs we're now into this, would introduce that many characters who are seemingly important and not do anything with them. So I'm excited to see what a show like Made in Abyss would do with that kind of different directorial choice, which you don't see a lot of, but when it is there, it's usually pretty mesmerizing. I mean, Made in Abyss was my most anticipated anime coming into the season, and I think it's probably going to be my anime of the season when it's all said and done. I mean, this season in general is pretty fantastic, from just casual fun shows to stuff that could be modern masterpieces in the making. But overall, Made in Abyss is just one of those shows that it does feel like it gets better with each arc. I've heard nothing but crazy things about this arc, even though I haven't heard specifics, but like I've said before, I mean, this is one of those shows that even if you knew of specific moments, you're never quite ready to actually see it in anime form, especially given how even if they don't technically maybe make it as graphic as maybe that manga does with certain elements, it's not to say that this show isn't graphic, from the dead bodies and the stuff like in the first episode to even a simple scene of cutting that animal to then the hair spilling out. Like, that shit was absolutely disturbing. And I think sometimes the more disturbing elements of a show aren't the things you see, but more so of the things you hear that have been done to them. I mean, some people may argue that just waking up knowing that your hair was stolen in the middle of your night isn't the most horrifying thing that could happen. There's far worse. But I mean, the character's reaction said it all. Like, they are young. They are just, even if they weren't young, right? It's just such a disturbing thing to wake up and not know, how didn't they set off the alarm, and can you ever go back to sleep because something worse could happen? And given the characters they're now interacting with, these monstrous beings, how the hell are you going to get an ounce of sleep? Like, are you going to just have watch duty? That's the most logical reaction, but what if they poison you to sleep? I don't know, but this Abyss is already trying to kill them. They don't need other people to try to do that for them, and seemingly all sides of the spectrum are pointing to their death, and I'm excited but terrified to see where they go next. But thoughts down below, what did you think of everything about this episode? Even better than the first episode, but that's Made in Abyss for you. Does get better as each week progresses, but thoughts down below, leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.